Hello, lovely people of the internet, and Happy New Year! It is 2022. I'm Panda from Panda Creates. If you are new here, hello, welcome. It's lovely to have you. I'm very excited to have you here. If you are not new here, welcome back. It's been a while. I was warned when I started a YouTube channel that burnout is a real thing, and oh man, is it ever. Um, so that's why you haven't seen me because I tried to do all the things all at once and I had a really serious burnout, a really bad breakdown towards the end of last year. But we are back. I have goals, I have plans, I have a set schedule so that I don't burn out, but I don't completely disappear. I learned a lot last year. I started my YouTube channel in October of 2020, and for the first 9, 10 months, I pumped out as much as I possibly could, and then I just fell to pieces. So it has been a couple of months since I posted. I do apologize to all of the people that do follow me avidly. Hello, I'm back. Um, but I have learnt a lot from that. I've learnt my limits. I have learnt lessons. I have learnt the importance of putting a plan into place and the need to not do everything all at once, right? It's okay to space it out. It's okay to not have weekly uploads. So that's what you're going to see from me this year. Not as much weekly involvement. I am going to try and do a tutorial and a unboxing every month. I just realized I still have my daughter and I got matching tattoos for her 11th birthday. And my butterfly is starting to come off. But I do have a plan to do one tutorial and one unboxing on top of my Facebook group commitments this year. So hopefully I'm not going to burn out like I did last year. Fingers crossed. But I did want to make an apology. But we are kicking off 2022 with the Aussie Tumbler Makers and Crafters Cup Swap Cup. Now, this is a cup swap that is a little bit different. All of the other cup swaps that I've ever participated in, I've participated in ones within Australia as well as ones in American groups, so from overseas. And usually a cup swap in the Tumblr community means that you make a cup for somebody else and you send it to them. This time we thought we'd do something a little bit different. We haven't really heard of it being done before and we wanted to do something differently. So this cup swap, we encouraged everybody that signed up. It was a 20-ounce cup challenge. So whether that be a standard, a skinny, the modern ones that dip in a little bit, whatever, the size had to be 20 ounces. And the idea behind it was whoever you drew as your person, you had to design the base of the cup only, whether that be glitter, spray paint, whatever. You had to do the base and then you sent the cup off, and the person that got your cup had to take whatever base that you started, that you sent them, and they had to expand on that to make their own cup. I hope I'm making sense. But anyway, the person that received me, the person that sent me the cup to finish, her name is Kim. She is a very active member in our Facebook group. So I thought, the idea that I want to turn this cup into is not something that I've done personally before, so I thought it would be fun to film it. B, I thought she'd get a real kick out of seeing what I did with her cup. So I'm going to show you her cup. So this, I'll turn it this way so you can see. This is what I was sent. Okay, so what has been done so far is all Kim. Okay, it does not yet have epoxy on it, but this is what I have to build from. So this is, I'm not sure, it's coming on my screen, on my computer screen, this is coming up blue. But this is like a mint green, and this is more of a teal. We'll see if I turn. We'll see if that'll focus. See that? Okay, so that is the base that I'm starting with. Now, because it's me, she didn't want to make it too easy for me. So she also sent me a little thing of white polymer clay, and I have to somehow incorporate the clay into my cup design. Okay, so I've been throwing around a few ideas. The cup swap started in November. Everybody had to have their cups in the mail by the end of November. Then obviously it's Christmas holidays, and holidays stacked on top of a pandemic means that postage times can be a bit, how you going? So we did give everybody until the end of January to have their cups completed. I am filming this the first week of January, so I am hoping that over the next week or two I can get this finished, especially since the idea that I have in mind would take me a couple of tries to crack the main bit that we're doing with the clay. Now, I have done a couple of 3D tumblers in the past. Clay is not my strong point, though. I've said it in every video that I've ever used clay in. Clay, I can work with clay, but it's not my favorite thing to work with. So there could be some mistakes that are made. So I'm giving myself plenty of time. That is what we are working with for this cup swap. And we're going to get started with a initial coat of epoxy. So this has been painted and spray sealed, but it doesn't yet have epoxy on it. So that is going to be our first step. Alrighty, she's a bit old, guys, but we know that already, don't we? But we are going in with the new quick coat from Amazing Clearcast. You can get this from LBB Resin. I will drop the link for that in the description. Everything in all of my videos, anything that I ever use, I always leave the link for it in the description. So if you're curious, have a look there. But I have mixed up 20 mils. So it is a 1-to-1 ratio food safe epoxy. So I've mixed up 10 mils of part A, 10 mils of part B. That is where I got my 20 mils. Okay, I'm going to put a really nice thick coat. Now this is quick set, guys. So if you are using it, the only thing that I can recommend, especially if you are used to using normal like epoxy for tumblers, when they say quick coat, they really do mean quick set. Okay, you need to make sure before you even think about starting to measure out and mix your epoxy, make sure everything that you need, whether you're glittering, using inks, you name it, make sure everything is set up, ready to go. You have all of your equipment in front of you. You won't have time to dig around. It doesn't set straight away. Like as you can see, I've still got the flow and the movement that I need, but you really only have a work time of about 10 to 15 minutes. So this is a really, really good epoxy to use, especially like coming up to Christmas time. This was a godsend for a lot of us at Christmas time, so thank you, Joe, for getting it in time for the holiday rush. But if you're a tumbler maker that prefers to work at a slower pace, I would definitely recommend possibly staying away from it unless you're using it as a final coat, especially if you don't like being under pressure. Me personally, I don't. I like to work at my own pace and not feel like I'm being rushed. Now, obviously, with this, all it is putting epoxy onto the beautiful base that Kim has already provided for me, so it is a little bit easier. But if I was going to be glittering or doing ink swirls or anything like that, where I'm doing the design work myself, I would probably stick with the resin that I normally use. At the moment, I'm swinging between, I've got Promarine, I have Diamond Coat, and I have EX74. So it really depends on what I put my hands on as to what I'm using. I did use Diamond Coat for a lot of this pandemic. As soon as EX74 went out of stock and we couldn't get it anymore, I switched to Diamond Coat. Late in the later half of last year, all of my old favorites started coming back into stock. So I got them while I could, and now I'm like Tarzan, right? I swing from resin to resin depending on what mood I'm in or what's closest to me or whatever else. But we are using the quick set from Illuminite or Amazing Clearcast on this one. So this should start to tacken up within the hour, and by tomorrow it will be nice and hard and fully cured. It doesn't even take that long, but it is currently 9 p.m. So I won't be staying up to watch it cure. It'll just be ready for me in the morning. But yes, it is definitely a godsend if you've got lots of cups to pump out. I definitely recommend looking into it. As I said, the link is in the description. Otherwise, I'm just using it because I can. tonight. If you can see that finish, that glassy finish, that's why I love this resin. I have used the CC DIY Quickset before. That's the only other fast setting resin that I have used. I know a lot of people have gone the lickety split route in Australia. I never did. I got some Quickset from CC DIY sent over from America. I think it was just me because a lot of my American friends really, really love that resin. I didn't like it. I found that it cured far too quickly for me to be able to work with. This I find like it's still I've made the mistake once where I left it in the pot because I was watching a movie, right? And I did one bottle, moved the bottle behind me to where my turner table is, went to do the second bottle because I'd asked around so much. It had been about 20 minutes since I'd mixed it, and I had, you know, the little like hard circles that you get in the epoxy. Anybody that's used fast set before, that started happening. So I've only made that mistake once, but I do think it has more to do with how fast you work rather than the resin itself. That's probably why I didn't like the CC DIY one, because like I said, I like to take my time and I don't like being rushed. I'm an artiste, darling. I like to take my time. Okay, but with this, it's just a simple coat. I do like using this resin for my final coats because of that glassy finish. So I recommend, like, everybody's got to try everything at least once in life, yeah? So if you haven't tried a quick set epoxy yet, I definitely recommend this one. But I'm just going to quickly hit it with heat. And then we'll move on to the next bit. There we go. Okay, so I hit it with heat. I don't like using a torch. There are some instances, like if I have really bad micro bubbles, I will use my torch. But 98% of the time, I prefer to use a heat gun. I don't have it embossing, like mine's a heavy duty heat gun. Uh, I'll see if I can fit it in frame. See, like it's a serious one, guys. So it does produce the amount of heat that I need to pop bubbles. I know that like if you're using an embossing gun or something like that, you're not going to get a high enough temperature to be able to pop the bubbles. That's where the torches or the alcohol spray or whatever comes in handy. Please never ever spray your cup with alcohol or a mold or anything with alcohol and then go in with a torch, unless you have fire and theft in your home insurance because you will set it alight. Pick one or the other. But I use heat. It just helps to even out the epoxy, especially in winter. I mean, I know it's summer at the moment, but especially in winter when you've got like gluggy epoxy that doesn't move as well. Hitting it with heat so that it levels out a little bit easier is also good. But that's done now. All my bubbles are popped. I have see that glassy. Oh, I love that finish to it. So I'm going to let that spin overnight, and we will be back tomorrow, and we will start on the next steps, which involves the clay. Alrighty, so here she is. She has her first coat of epoxy on her, nice and shiny, but the next step, she gets put aside, okay, because we're going to be working with this clay, right? So, as I mentioned at the beginning, right, the cup that I got sent with my cup swap, Kim wanted to make it not so easy for me, so she included clay and she told me I had to use it somehow. Not the strongest clay crafter. I don't want to say I can hold my own because that's not even true. I get by, right? Where I have to, I get by. So, obviously, because it's oven baked clay, it's got to go in the oven. We're going to use avert your eyes. We're going to use a naked cup. It is a 20-ounce skinny as well. I've already started playing with, if anybody's used the Fimo before, you've got like two sections, but then, I'll see, I'll turn that off. Well, see the grid? right? So I've used the whole other half of the block so far. I'm hoping that will be enough. We've had a lot of rain, so although it's summer and it should be a lot easier to work with, I'm finding that it's not, especially tonight because I'm filming, and God knows if I'm filming, nothing goes according to plan. Oh, look, I have a little lady beetle. Oh, she could be my good luck. She can watch over me. That's a bit cute. Okay, so this is the Fimo Clay. I'm pretty sure it's just called White or Blanco. Okay, the 57-gram blocks. Squish. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I'll use this actually, so that you can envision it with me, guys. Okay, I'm actually going to move you back and up just a touch, so I'm in frame better. Okay, so this is our cup, and my idea is to put, okay, I've never done this before. Like I said, this is why I'm filming it, because we're having a play, and honestly, even if nobody else watches it, I'm sure Kim's going to get a kick out of seeing this. But the only geode cup that I've ever done is the one where you use the glitter and the paint pens and whatnot, and you've got to be really careful if you're doing pink, right? Those ones, you know the ones I'm talking. Anybody that's made a pink geode cup knows exactly what I'm referring to, right? But I thought instead, obviously I can't do it that way because I've already got my base, but because I've got clay, what if I did a 3D geode, right? Now, I have not seen it done on a cup yet, so if you have already done this, my full apologies to you. I actually got the idea from my friend over in America. Her name is Meg Epps. Anybody that has a lot to do with the CC DIY community over there will know exactly who I am talking about. I met her, it'd be going on 3 or 4 years ago now, in another group. We used to do tutorials. Not together, but not together, like we weren't co-hosting, but we were on the same tutorial schedule for this group. And we've kept in touch over the years. She actually did, and I'm pretty sure it was in the artist support group, but correct me if I'm wrong, just before Christmas, she was doing little plastic ornaments and the foam pumpkins, and was doing the same thing. So I thought, oh, I wonder if I could do that on a cup. So that's what we're going to do. So because this is oven baked, and I swear, if you don't know, if you haven't seen it and you don't know what I'm talking about, hopefully by the end of this video, it will have worked and you'll know what I'm talking about. Or better yet, I'll take a nice photo of it and put it as my cover image, and then you'll know exactly what I'm trying to refer to, right? But I thought we don't want it too big, and of course we've got to be careful of the shape with it as well. But because it's oven baked clay, I'm going to have to do it on a blank to get the shape, and then obviously I'll take it off the blank and put it onto the cup we've already done. Now I want it high enough so that it looks 3D, but not so high. What do you reckon about there? We don't want it to be too awkward to touch, was the end of that sentence. So I'm just trying to get it as smooth as possible, and I'm going to come along and squish it. Just so it looks a little bit more natural, I suppose. I feel like that's going to be way too long, but we'll see. Okay. So I'm thinking like I said, I've got to be real careful with how I shape this. Now the hard part will be, I shouldn't have cut any off. I should have just left it nice and long and dealt with it from there. Because now the hard part will be trying to get the same thickness the whole way around. Sorry guys, I'm left-handed, so I've got to try and always remember to attempt it with my right hand so that I'm not like this and you can't see anything. What do you reckon, like that? I don't want it too pointy on the ends for the aforementioned reasons. Maybe if I kind of... What do you reckon? Because then it doesn't look so, you know. But that still gives us heaps of room to work with as well. So I think I'm happy with that. I'm not going to play with the shape anymore. What I am going to do is I'm like pinching like this, but without creating peaks. Right, but I'm also pushing down at the same time to make sure that once it's baked, I can lift it off and put it straight onto our epoxied cup without there being, right, see, like this. I'll try and get it on camera. See here, see the gap between the clay and the stainless steel? That's what I'm trying to move out, right? Because obviously when I go to adhere it to the cup that we've already epoxied, right, we want it to sit nice and flat and firm against the surface of our cup. So I'm just going around and making sure that I don't have any little surprises. Well, I just took a chunk out with my nail. I actually really like the shape of that. What do you reckon? Make sure that join's done. Just quickly rub over it just to get rid of those top fingerprints. That looks a little bit flat. We want it risen enough so that it looks 3D. But not so much that it's awkward when you hold it. It's going to be tricky. Obviously, because we can't cut in, I can't create that depth the other way. So it's already a little bit trickier than I had the foresight for, because I do want to use it. I don't want it to be too awkward or too, you know, so heavy that it goes because it's too heavy on this side, because we still have all of our middle to add yet. So yes, we'll see how we go. I was going to originally add like crushed up quartz and stuff, but looking at this, I don't think I'm going to have enough height to be able to put them in and still keep it looking like this is the highest part. I don't want to add any more to it because it's already, like, I can stand, that's got no liquid in it and it stands. Okay, so far, so good. I'm going to stop playing with it. No more playing with it. I'm going to leave that. I've now got to, now the Fimo is a little bit different to Sculpey. Usually I bake my Sculpey at about 120 degrees for about 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes. This is telling me I need it at 110 degrees or 230 Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. So I'm going to follow the package instructions. I'm going to put this in the oven on 110 for 30 minutes, and then once it's cooled, I'll be back. We'll lift it off here and attach it to our swap cup and move on from there. Okay, so it's baked. We're done. I did have a little bit more of a fiddle with it once I stopped recording yesterday. I did put a little bit more clay on the top and worked that through just so I had a little bit more height. See, a little bit more height. After I finished recording yesterday night, I wasn't happy with how low it was. So I did have a play. I also had a play with the shape. I've tried to make it a little bit more abstract, I suppose is the word. Right, but no rock is perfect, is it? It's always going to have its little, so that's what I was trying to do. But that's now baked. Right, so as I mentioned, I did it on 110 degrees or 200 and, did we say 230 Fahrenheit? Yeah, 230 Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. And if I can get that to focus, see how it's curved, right? That's why we want to bake it against a Nike cup, okay? Because now, when we get our, actually let's put that way so it's in frame. This is the top, okay? It should sit, oh, look at that. It should sit perfectly on there, okay? So I'm going to, let's get some pigment paste for this side, and the bottom of one of the sun globe cups. They can be my don't roll away from me bits. Okay. Now, obviously, if this was a skinny that had like a screw top lid, I have to put the lid on to make sure that I'm not off center. Because this is one of the ones where the lid just pops on, I don't have to be too worried about the positioning. And I'm going to fix it on with some liquid fusion. I would have preferred E6000 to be honest, just because it dries a little bit quicker. But the sun's out today, and it is summer in Australia at the moment, so I am hoping that the humidity in this room will help it dry a little bit quicker. But I am going to go, sorry guys, left-handed again. I'm just going to explain it in case I do block your view. I'm just going to put a thin line of liquid fusion the whole way around, and then we're going to apply it to the cup. Okay, we don't want too much, see? No, you can't see. Let's try. There we go. Okay. So see how it's not covering the whole surface? You don't want it to cover the whole surface because obviously when we put it down on the cup and squish it down, that glue is going to spread anyway. And I don't want too many leaks. So I'm just going around, trying to keep it as centered as possible. There we go. Now, God willing, that should sit straight on the cup like that. Ta-da! So far, so good. That was the bit out of the whole process. This was the bit that had me the most nervous, because if I couldn't get it to work, that was my idea down the drain, right? You guys never would have known that this recording happened, and I would have had to have come up with another idea. So I'm going to squelch that down. See, I've got glue coming up here, and I've got glue coming in the insides here. We don't want you. just doing a bit of surface cleanup. I mean, inside it's not really going to matter too much because all of that's going to be covered anyway. Just making sure that the outside's nice and clean as well. My neighbour has his parents over today and his dad is so loud. And I hear a child coming in. This is why I don't film during the day usually. But I'm hoping by gluing this on now, I'll be able to film the next part tonight. Okay, so pressing that down, making sure that that's all secured. Okay, so I'm gonna, again, that was liquid fusion, so I'm gonna let that sit. I've got my 2 holders in place. I'm gonna let that sit for the rest of the day. It's currently just after 1 o'clock. So by the time I get back in here tonight, once the little minions are in bed, that should be more, right? But that is how it's looking. And yes, I did do a weight test to make sure that adding that extra clay wasn't going to make it too heavy on that one side. So far, so good. So now I'm going to leave it alone and I'll be back with the next step. Okay, it's now the evening of the day that we glued our, what am I going to call this? It's not even an outline, is it? Our outside of our geode, right? So that's dry, that's not going anywhere. God bless liquid fusion. So the next step is eventually when it's all finished, I am going to go around the outside of this in gold leafing just to give it a more textured look. But for now, we're going to do our painting. So on the inside, originally I was thinking I would do teal that matched like this. I have since decided, as of about 15 minutes ago when I was setting up the film this section, I'm going to go black for no other reason than I'm hoping that it creates depth, right? If you think of like a gemstone rock that they crack open, right? That's what a geode is. We've got the rock on the outside and all of your crystal on the inside. It goes in, right? It's not sitting on the surface. It's actually into the rock that's holding it. So we've done our first step by creating dimension with our outside here, but I'm hoping that by painting black, when we do go and fill in our geode part, I'm hoping that there's not going to be any gaps, but even if, well, if there's gaps, then it's going to be black and it's going to create depth. But even if there's not, I'm hoping that it just kind of adds to the dimension aspect for no other reason than that's how my logic works. So I am using the Semco black and the Semco gold, and both of those, check them out, are from Spotlight. So as I mentioned in every other video multiple times, because I have a bad habit of repeating myself, everything that I use in all of my videos I do list down in the description. I try to use Australian small businesses as much as I can. Sometimes there's no way around using a big chain store or even stuff from overseas. So obviously Spotlight isn't a small business, but I do try and support small Aussie businesses as much as I can because that's what I was trying to build my channel around originally, because I'm not sure how many Aussies I even have watching me anymore. A lot of my stats that come back, America does take the cake on my viewer population by a big amount. So I suppose those of you that are watching from America or Canada, or I think I have people from India even, right, you can take my ideas, but then you've got to find your own products. But originally my channel was going to be, because if you're an Aussie, right, all of the tutorials that we get to watch, it's all American glitter suppliers, or I got this from Dollar Tree, or I got this from Michael's or Hobby Lobby, or, and all the way down here it can be really frustrating because you're like, oh my god, I want to make this, let me guess, and in 2 seconds time the person doing the tutorial goes, I just went down and I picked this up from Hobby Lobby, and we're sitting here going, fuck, of course you did, of course you got it. Right? So my goal was to bring the same, I don't want to say the same kind of content, but tutorials that everybody can enjoy, with a focus on supplies that Aussies can get from Australian companies, from Australian small businesses, just on the off chance that some poor Aussie comes along my channel and is like, oh my goodness, she's Australian. And then she finds out that everything that I use in the video she can get for herself, or he can get for himself or themselves, or, right? That's my ultimate goal at the end of the day. So I am using Spotlight paint. We're going to go black for the inside, and I'm going to paint our outline. I'm going to call it an outline because I don't know what else to call it. With gold, and then at the very, very end, once all the middle's done and everything, I'll go back over the gold with gold flakes. So let's paint our inside first. I'm not going to use the white brush for the black paint because I've made that mistake before today. Make sure I'm in frame, and away we go. Okay, so that's done. Now I did come up, I made a boo-boo, but we're going to paint over that because it's not one of my tutorials if there's not a mistake. So far so good, knock wood. Okay, I did apply it quite thick. It's not like super thick so that it's going to drip, but I only wanted to do one coat. So obviously you can't see this pattern underneath it anymore. I wasn't very neat with my brush strokes because it's all going to get covered over anyway. Okay, I also came about a third of the way up our outline, so the gold isn't going to go all the way down to the cup, just because I thought that that looked a little bit more realistic. But that is what we're currently working with, and now I'm going to go back in frame with my gold. much more watery. How interesting. They're exactly the same brand of paint, but the gold isn't as... I mean, on the outside, it's not going to matter too much anyway, because I'm going to go back over at the end with the flake, but this worries me for the inside now. Might have to do more than one coat of the gold, because if I have it too much, you're going to have it start dripping on the cup, and we don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to go through now and finish our outline. Okay, so that's all of the outside done. I'll see if I can get it to pick up with it to focus. See how it's just not the greatest coverage that I prefer. So the outside I'm not going to be too worried about because, as I mentioned, I'm going to cover with gold foil anyway. The inside, I'm going to try and get away with one coat, because the inside we're not going to cover with flakes. I'm just going to leave it as the gold paint. I mean, let's face it, anybody that's worked with flakes knows that they always end up where you don't want them anyway. But we shall see. So instead of brushing my paint on, I'm dabbing it in much, much thicker. See the difference? Okay. It does work. I'm a little bit worried that it's going to drip all down to our black. But again, I'm not worried so much on the inside because it's all going to be covered anyway. What I don't want is gold all over our cup itself that we're leaving in its original beauty that Kim did for us. Rude. Black's mixing. It's mostly dry, but obviously that spot wasn't. That's okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish my inside, and then I'll be back. Alrighty, so this is where we are now at. If I move that up a little bit, you can see it from a side on view. Right, please ignore the outsides, but that is what we are now working with. So I'm going to quickly hit this with a heat gun, and then I'll be back. Okay, so paint's dry, woohoo! And it's starting to get, it just caught my eye, and to me it looks like some kind of dark Disney mirror, right, with that gold around the outside. Okay, so I changed my mind. What's new? Panda prerogative. All right, I'm not going to wait till the end to do the gold flakes. I'm going to do them now. So I'm going in with, this is just Tack it. It's a 50-50 mix. So I do 1 part Tack it to 1 part water, and then I keep it in these cute little containers. They're the salad dressing containers. I can't remember the brand. I want to say maybe Sistema, but just the little salad dressing containers. And I have one that's got Mod Podge in it as well, because I buy the big gallon bottles of Mod Podge. Yeah, fun little fact. So I'm only going to paint around the outside with the Tack it. And I am trying to, I don't want to say it's flat because it's not, but it's not pointy either. The top of the ridge. I did press it down with my finger, but not enough to make it flat. So I'm kind of trying to bring the tacket up over that little ridge. Okay, hang on, let's think about this. I'm going to start on this curve here so that I don't forget where I started. So it goes clear on me. Okay, now we're good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, because it's pretty boring watching somebody apply tacket. Okay, but see, you can still kind of see that it's white. Hang on, if the camera can focus. Nope, it's not going to show. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better. See how it's white? Obviously, with tacket, we're going to wait until it's clear, or as good as, before we use it usually. But I'm just going to go around, and as soon as it's all tacket, I'm going to go in with the gold flakes because it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'll be back. Okay, so my tacket is on. I'm going to go in with these gold flakes from LBB Resin. And we're just going to smush them. Please focus. Please focus. There we go. See that? Yeah. Because who doesn't love some gold leafing, hey? I am wearing gloves because I don't want to end up with gold flakes embedded into my skin for the next 6 weeks, because I've made that mistake before too. But because the tacket's already on there, right, I'm not even worrying about breaking the flakes up into tinier pieces, because we do have a considerable, I'm going to just put more there, a considerable area to cover. I actually think this spot doesn't have any tacket on it. Okay. There's a spot just here that won't stick. So because I'm a dumbass and I've already put that tacket brush in my little cup of water, we'll go back in with a little one. Just here. This time we won't put it in the water. Now, if you don't have tacket, you can use Mod Podge. In my experience, Mod Podge is just too wet. I mean, it's doable, but it can be. Yes, my gloves are ridiculously big. I can only buy them in a large size. I just realized I was desperate for gloves and I could only get them in large. I have ordered medium from a place down in Melbourne, but I needed them urgently. So yes, I'm wearing ridiculously large gloves. off on a tangent. Yeah, I just find Mod Podge is too wet, and I do have a lot of trouble getting it to stick to the Mod Podge rather than me lift up the Mod Podge with the flakes. Because even with Tack-It, like, you still get a little bit. So, I mean, it's doable. Before Tack-It became a thing, that's what I used. But yeah, it is a much messier, much more frustrating exercise to use Mod Podge. So, fair warning. It is doable, but please don't get frustrated with yourself if you're finding that it's not just, drop it on and push it down. That's 100% the Mod Podge's fault and not yours. Okay, so I am, if I can please get you to focus. It's not even doing its job, is it? That's a bit better. You can, I mean, obviously you can tell where the foil is now, but that's what we're getting. See how it just finishes it off, doesn't it? Right, so I'm going to go now and do the whole way around. If I have any little spots that have come off, I'll fix them up at the same time, and the next time you see me, this will be ready for its next coat of epoxy, or its final coat of epoxy, really. We're going to put the design on the other side that I want to do. It's nothing like this. It's just a quote. It's not even a quote. It's like it's a black image, right? There's no color to it or anything. It's just a black outlined image. And then we'll put the final, the final coat of resin for this project before we go in and do our actual geode part. Alrighty, so we are back and we are ready for epoxy. Now, I'm just going to move my microphone a little bit closer. There we go. Okay, so you may notice that it looks different to when we left. I did this little bit in here with the Chameleon Flakes. I did record it, but I obviously didn't hit the button properly because there is no record of me filming that part. So I'm just going to quickly recap. And I just broke my glove. I'm having a good day today, guys. I'll tell you what. Okay, so basically, after we filmed the last bit that you guys will see in the video, I was thinking about possibly having some color, because where all the Chameleon Flakes are, we're going to put clear quartz, right? So I'm wondering if when we place it down, it may not work, right? As I've explained, I've never done this before. You're learning with me. But because it's clear quartz, I'm hoping that when we place them over the Chameleon Flakes, you'll be able to see, it won't be like super noticeable, but depending on the angle, we might be able to see the flakes coming up through the clear quartz. Does that make sense? So I thought, oh, look, I'll give it a crack, and if it does work and that effect does happen, then awesome. And if it doesn't and you can't see it at all, well, no love lost really, is there? So basically for that part, all I did was paint Tack-It, a really thin coat of Tack-It, waited for it to dry, and then put the Chameleon Flakes down using a paintbrush. The Chameleon Flakes that I used were from Pixie Dust Pigments. I'll leave the link in the description. And they are the flakes, right? So they're a blue, red, violet, green kind of shift, which you can see in here. And that's all that you basically missed, right? So exactly the same deal as how we did the gold flakes, where we put the Tack-It down, waited for it to dry. Well, we didn't wait for it to dry. And then put the flakes over, the foil over. I did exactly the same with the Chameleon Flakes, right? So now that that's all done, I have mixed 15 mils of food safe epoxy. I'm using the amazing Quick Coat, the fast set stuff that's now available in Australia, just because I'm hoping that if I put the resin on now, it'll hopefully be ready for tonight so that we can do the next part, because I'm starting to run out of time a little bit. This comes due at the end of January and we're already halfway through. So I'm hoping that will be ready by tonight. So I'm going to go ahead first and epoxy all this part, and then I'm going to turn the turner on, epoxy the rest of the cup, and as it turns, right, okay, You with me? Okay. Now, little bit of a safety note. Please remember when working with resin, resin can release toxic fumes while it is curing, and you need to look after your health first. So make sure whenever working with resin, doesn't matter what the resin project is, tumblers, molds, you name it, when working with resin, please make sure that you always wear gloves. You always wear a half-face respirator mask. You always work in a very well ventilated area, and if you're not like me and you don't need glasses to see life, eye goggles are also preferable. Okay, so I'm just going to go in little by little, okay, because this will be what is essentially the final coat of epoxy, because once all of our stones and everything goes on, I'm not going to epoxy over them. So I just want to get all of our pretty little flakes and everything sorted so that they don't lift when the cup's being washed or anything like that. And I can make sure that all this section stays put. Making sure I'm going around the whole outline. I still haven't come up with a better word for that, so I'm still calling it the outline. Okay, and now I'm going to go around the outside of our clay work as well, making sure I'm getting right down to those edges. Where, like the join. Now, if you wanted to spray seal, you could spray seal. I didn't. For no other reason than I didn't. Probably should have in hindsight, because I am getting a lot of the gold flakes onto the actual cup, which is what we didn't want, but I'm just going to wipe my glove off in a minute when we do the rest of the cup and fix it that way. Making sure I'm going right around. See, we're getting a little bit of transference, but that's okay. I can't see that side. Just kind of hoping for the best. Playing by feel. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to wipe my finger. Just going to clean off the cup itself where I've got the gold everywhere. That's a big chunk of gold. Okay, so now I'm going to put my turner on, and we're just going to epoxy, see, the rest of the cup as normal. Okay. So obviously, because all of this part is already epoxied, the coat doesn't have to be super thick, because the first coat that I did was super thick anyway. This is just basically going to help us even it out. And I was going to put a water slide, like just a black outline or water slide on this side. I did decide against it because I didn't want it to be too, what's the word I'm looking for? Too much, too busy, too, right, all of that. We want our geode part to be like the center of attention, right? So I decided just to leave the rest as this beautiful base that Kim did for me. and have all of the attention where we want it, which is on this beautiful side that's coming around now. There are still some gold flakes here and there. That's what I mean by probably should have spray sealed, but this is for me. Okay, if I ever do this again and it's for a customer, I will definitely spray seal just so I don't have that transfer. But this is my cup, so I don't really mind. Except when it's a big blob like that. Then I kind of mind. Okay. So I'm just going to trickle the tiny little bit that's left. Like so. Make sure that we've got it going. Okay. Isn't that stunning? So pretty. Alright, so we're going to hit it with heat. Just to warm it up a little bit, encourage it to level out. Pop any little bubbles that we've got. Okay. So I'm going to let that continue. There we go. It's starting to even out. I can see because it's dripping. There we go. All right. So I'm probably going to sit here for maybe 10-15 minutes. And just keep an eye on it. I've never epoxied something like this. Well, that's not true. I made a boob cup, like a big corset cup that had clay boobies on it. So I have done 3D designs before, but nothing this shape. So I just want to make sure that the resin's staying where we need it to. I don't want any of these flakes running out over the edge or anything crazy like that. So I'm just keeping an eye on it. And then once it looks like it's not moving anymore, I'll leave it alone and then we'll be back. So here she is, all resined and pretty and ready for our next step. So I'm going to be using clear quartz chips, and amethyst chips. They're both from a shop called Mindful Journeys on eBay. I'm also using LBB Resin. I'll put you there so you don't keep rolling around. Where did I put them? These little things. Right, these little chips. They're like big rows. They actually remind me of, does anybody remember the old lollies? They were called liquor sticks or something. And you had like the candy stick and then all the sherbet powder, and you licked the stick and dipped it in the sherbet. Does anybody remember them? That's what these remind me of, right? And it comes in a big row. So I mixed, I'll turn that off so you can see. Please focus. Like the tealy green and the champagne gold one. And I've mixed both of those packets together. So we're using the three of them. Okay, clear quartz, amethyst, and these little stones from LBB Resin. And God willing, I'm going to move these out of the way because I'm going to knock them over otherwise. With my hot glue gun. And those of you that watched my battle box live, you'll be pleased to know that I have gotten new glue gun sticks. But I'm just going to, sorry, I know I'm left hand. I'm going to try and do it in a way where you can see. Put my hot glue gun. And then stick these chips down. No. I don't want them coming up over the side of our little outline because I don't want to cut my hand, basically. For no other reason than I don't want to slice my hand on it. Put another one on top there. Fill this gap here. Oh, I'm getting little strings now. Little hot glue strings. This one will fit nicely in there. Right, so I'm just building up. My first row of my geode. And I am going, I'll hold it up so that you guys can see. Please focus. There we go. See, I am going piece by piece. All right. So I will go back around. Obviously, we're going to bring the clear quartz all the way into where the Chameleon Flakes stop. So I'm just placing my first row down. I'm going in. If it sits a little bit high like here, if you can see from this angle, right, this little one down here, I've actually wedged up underneath this one that's here because there was a gap. And I'm going through and doing the best that I can to put my first row down in a way where the gaps are minimized. And you thought putting the foil down was going to be the long-winded part. Surprise! Get that down there. I'm going to put... Oh, I'm going to need a new stick in a second. Nope, I'm going to need a new stick now. Okay. I love hot glue guns, but they don't love me. Anybody else? Okay, so I'm going to continue actually. Let's just finish this little section while we're here. You're too good for your home. This extra glue stick just doesn't want to cooperate. I just think that's rude. See? Get that little curvy bit. I mean, you can kind of see the chameleon from underneath. Look at that. Now that that's down. That's cool. It doesn't stand out like I was kind of hoping it would. But at the right angles, I think the colours are going to show. I mean, it's going to look a lot better than if we'd left it black, isn't it? So there's always going to be that. Put that in there like that. Now I need a little one. Here we go. This little one can sit in there like that. Okay, so this is how it's starting to look, and if you can see that, you can see the chameleon flake underneath. I think it's going to look cool. All right, but I'm going to keep going around, building up my first layer the whole way around with my hot glue and my clear quartz chips, and then we'll be back to do the amethyst. Ta-da! Look at that. And if you'll notice, you can see those chameleon flakes. See if I can get to focus. See, look at that. Ah, pretty. Not on all angles though. The light has to, see? The light has to catch him at a certain angle. Just burnt myself on my hot glue gun. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, look, ouch. But we are ready to do the amethyst. If I don't kill myself in the process, that was real clever putting it on the tip, wasn't it? Okay, so we're going to do the amethyst next, and we're going to go exactly the same process. Amethyst. As we did with the clear quartz. These are smaller chips than the clear quartz. That was the point. All right, so I wanted all the big chunky ones out here first, to then build into these smaller ones, to then build into the little tiny ones that we're going to put right in the middle. Okay, so this, they're using the different sizes. Let's see if I turn that off. Please focus. There we go. Right, so you can see. I know maybe the black base makes it a little bit hard, but you can see that the amethyst are definitely smaller chips than what the clear quartz is. So we are building that effect of getting into the center. Okay. And now I'm just going to go around and build it up. It's like playing a very delicate game of Tetris. You've got to find the right little bits, especially, I mean, once you want the first row of quartz that I put on, I didn't find too difficult. And then as I started building up and in, that's when it wasn't frustrating. It was actually really fun. Like my suggestion would be to find a movie or something, a true crime video, something that goes for at least 30 minutes. And just go for it. It's a little bit like rhinestoning, I suppose. Although I have worked with rhinestones before. I'm just not a big fan of them because I'm not a patient person. Right? Patience was not the virtue that God gave me. So I mean, this is a little bit like that. But I had fun. I did have fun. Well, don't knock the teacup over. I'm not sure I'd want to make 50 of them. That's all. But I did have fun. It's very relaxing is not the right. Well, yeah, I suppose it's relaxing. Mind numbing. You've got to put a little bit of thought into it, but it does become very repetitive. But I mean, now that I'm finished that little tangent, I hope you all enjoyed that. My point is, it's not difficult. It is something that you can sit and do while you're watching a movie, or you know. something that doesn't require your full and undivided attention. But you know, you don't want to sit here and do it in silence either, because you'll drive yourself insane. Yes, I'm an overthinker. Alright, I'm going to put a couple more of these on, just so I can show you how I'm starting to build it. And then we're going to speed it up. And all the little stringies that you get, like the hot glue stringies, I just went through once I was done with a pair of tweezers and just picked it all out with a pair of tweezers. Okay, so now turn that off again. Please focus. Now our amethyst is starting to build up. So I'm going to build that up probably 2 rows, make it thick like what the clear quartz is, right? So that we end up with just a little bit in the middle that we're going to put this mix into. Okay, final part. So I've got all of my amethyst and my clear quartz down. That clear quartz has the chameleon flakes under it so that we get that cool opal looking effect like that. Okay, so then all we need to do now is finish off with, whoops, please focus, this little teal. I like working under the light because it helps me see better. It's like the teal and gold tiny little rock chip things from LBB Resin. I will find the link for them and I'll link them in the description. I don't know what they're called, but those things, these little things. So I want them in this whole area. So I'm just going to pump. Let that run down. And then we're going to cover and press. It works. I think we will end up with a few more loose ones once that glue dries. But, ta-da! See, how cool does that look? Just for something different to glitter, I suppose. Put that out of the way, turn my light back on so that I can see what I'm doing. And again, just really layering that hot glue. Let it run down into all the little cracks. And then dump these on again and press. Like if you've ever used double-sided tape for glitter, you know how you dump it on and you press it down? Same process. Same logic. Almost there. Just that little bit to go. I dig it. I was a little bit nervous that because the rest of them we've used like the really big, well, not really big chips, but a much larger cut than what we're applying now, that it'd look funny. Like maybe I should go clear quartz again instead of doing this, but no, 100%. I am happy with my decision, which is good because it's my cup. Okay, so if we just clean up in the areas where we're getting some loose stones. So I think what's going to have to happen, because they are such small stones, when I said it's the last coat of resin, I lied. But because these are so small, right, I don't want water getting in there and not drying and it going moldy and it's going to be gross. That's what it's looking like, guys. Sorry, I didn't realize I was out of frame. Right, so I've just been pressing these down, and whatever sticks to my finger, see, like here, is what's loose and hasn't stuck to the hot glue, so it can go away. All right, just over and over and over again. But yeah, I don't want mold or anything growing in there. So essentially now it's finished, but what I will do is I'm going to let this dry overnight. I know that hot glue doesn't need to cure per se, but I want to make sure that it's all right. And then we'll go in with resin, but instead of applying it like we normally do, I'm going to dab it on this whole section and just give it, I suppose, just a little bit more protection, make it a little bit moisture proof. Okay, but that is, I'll turn it off as well. Our geode. So we have, if I can get it to focus, this cameraman. There we go. We have the gold leafing all around the outside. It then goes into that clear quartz with that really pretty, it won't do it when the light's not on. There we go. That really pretty, I'm calling it a fake opal. See? With the chameleon flakes underneath. Then it goes into the amethyst. If I can get you to focus again. Thank you. The amethyst and then these little stones from LBB. And that is the finished effect. I really like that. Let me know in the comments what you would have done. Would you have gone clear quartz again, or what do you reckon? I used gold and teal because we've got teal and gold here. I was trying to just marry it off, I suppose. But yeah, that's our geode, and I'll be back to do the resin tomorrow morning. Ooh, okay, let's finish her off. Let's go. Okay, so I am not using quick set tonight. I am using the amazing Clear Cast Plus. For two reasons. One, I don't want to use up all of my quick coat epoxy because I may need it. And the next batch I found out isn't arriving until probably early March. So I've got about maybe 3 or 4 cups left. So I'm not going to be wasting that anymore. B, I really like the Amazing Clear Cast Plus. It's not as thick. If you can see me playing in the background, that's it. It's not as thick as my beloved EX74. It's also not as thick as the Just Resin's Diamond Coat. It is a little bit thinner, but the Amazing Clear Cast Plus has a UV inhibitor built into it, like the EX74 and the Just Resin Diamond Coat. So it does have what a UV inhibitor is basically, is it's going to prolong the yellowing of your resin. Now, all resin will eventually turn yellow. There is no escape. That's why I try as much as I can to avoid doing white-based cups, because sooner or later, doesn't mean you can buy the best, most expensive resin, it's going to yellow. Okay. However, and the original Amazing Clear Cast, like just the clear cast, right? That is notorious for going yellow very, very quickly. That's why I like using the EX74 and the Diamond Coat, because they do have that UV inhibitor in them. Amazing Clear Cast has since upped their game, and they came out with the Plus. And that's the one that, if you're going to go with Amazing Clear Cast is a really good resin for beginners. It's the resin, the original one is the one that I started with when I first started working with resin. Very, very beginner friendly. Okay. But my advice would be, whether you're starting out brand new or you used to use it, you loved it, but because it yellowed, you went away from it, you've never tried it, whatever, buy at least one set and see how you go with it, because it is a really nice resin to work with. It's not as thick. I don't like using it as my final coats. I like having really thick final coats, but because it's thinner, I'm going to use it on this because we don't want it real, right? We want to keep, if somebody was to do this on the cup, we want them to have that 3D feeling as much as we possibly can. And I do apologize in advance. I'm about to flip you off this whole time. I have this weird thing in my brain where I have to use my longest finger to do shit like this and stuff like this. And that just happens to be my middle finger. So I'm well aware that I'm doing it. Some people have pointed it out in some of my videos and my lives before when I'm doing it. It's just how I apply resin. Okay. So I'm just doing little bits at a time, and obviously just working it into, whoops, because like I said, we want to keep that 3D effect as much as possible. We don't want it to be a big flat blob. Dabbing. Okay, so because this is pooling, I'm going to push that resin around. You can stay in there. Starting to get some of these little chips want to spread. So let's cover them up first. There we go. Interested to see if putting resin over, especially this clear quartz, is going to amplify that opal effect as well. I've got it kind of facing you guys more than me, so it's not catching the light the way that it needs to show up those chips from where I'm sitting. But we'll start it spinning in a second, and we'll see how we go. Make sure all of these ridges are accounted for. The work, but it's going to be worth it, isn't it? We need that waterproofing, for lack of a better word. Okay, so now I'm going to start working my way around the outline. And that is that. So now, because I've got the resin left, I'll do another coat on the rest of the top. Okay, so now that that's all on there, I'm going to, with my pinky, because my pinky has no resin on it, start that up and just put resin on the rest of the cup. Okay, so she's coming back around. That's what we're left with. Isn't that pretty? Let's turn that off and bring it back the other way. Excuse me. Hello. Anybody else's turn to do this? There we go. This will go the direction I want it to. Gotta bring it back the other way so you can see it without the light on. See how pretty that is? And for anybody wondering, yes, it definitely does stand up. I made sure that it would stand before we put it on the turner. It still stands upright. So even with no liquid in it, just a bit of stray glitter there. Even with no liquid in it, it does still stand upright, which was one of my bigger fears, was that we'd put so much weight onto the side of it that I know I'm not wearing a glove. Just me and my safety. I'm not wearing it, but I'm just going to quickly spread that. Nobody saw that. But yeah, safety first, guys. Lead by example, Laura. But yeah, it was one of my biggest fears, was that we were going to build it up so much on one side that it was going to tilt over. Stop it. Stop touching it without the. Oh, but this little bits. Oh, there's a little bit of green there. Okay, there we go. I'm going to stop playing with it now. I just want to make sure nothing else travels. But yeah, that is. Isn't she so pretty? Anybody that has been with me for a while now, you know that I'm a humble person. I would say that I'm a pretty humble person, right? But sometimes I got to be a little bit of a peacock, right? And with this cup, I'm definitely peacocking a little bit because I love it. I think that is so cool. Very big thanks to Kim for doing the base and participating in the cup swap. Without the base and without the challenge of doing something with clay on a tumbler, I probably never would have attempted anything with clay, and then I wouldn't have come up with this idea. A very big thank you to Meg Epps for doing the Christmas ornament in the DIY group, because without you, I would never have thought of trying it on a cup. So thank you all, each and every one of you, for watching me and learning from me and being a part of my little crafty world, and I do appreciate each and every one of you. I really do. I've never claimed to be a professional. I don't think I'm not the bee's knees. I just do it because I love the craft. I really do. I love this craft. I love all crafts. I love being creative. That's the sentence I'm looking for. I love being creative. If I can share with you guys and possibly inspire or teach somebody to be creative as well, then that's big bonus. Big bonus for me. I love it. Thank you all for joining me. I am going to sign off now. I hope you all have a very wonderful rest of your January, and Godspeed to you all through 2022. I'll see you next time. Bye.